Draft season is closing in, and the window to find this year's breakout stars at a discount is shutting quickly. When we look back at the elite talents of the league, guys like Lamar Jackson, their massive year-two leaps were the predictable result of a high-level prospect finally stepping into an optimized environment. The trap most fantasy managers and bettors fall into is staring strictly at last year's rookie box scores. If a highly drafted player had a quiet first season, the general market simply writes them off. But the actual edge in fantasy football comes from front-running systemic changes. By identifying exactly where volume is opening up or coaching is upgrading, you can acquire premium talent at a fraction of their true cost. This is a chart we call the value matrix, tracking a player's current market acquisition cost against their 2026 contextual upside. This framework separates true draft busts from talented players who were just suffocated by a terrible situation. What we are looking for is this specific cluster right here, players who cost almost nothing to draft right now, but have massive mathematical ceilings this year due to shifts around them. To navigate this quadrant safely and actually build a winning roster, we have to divide these undervalued players into three specific, actionable archetypes. These three archetypes provide a logical map for every post-type sleeper on your board, defining the specific statistical risks you're choosing to absorb with each pick. This comparison matrix illustrates our first archetype, the volume beneficiary. We are specifically looking for offenses that have created a massive target vacuum. Look at the Chicago Bears. The front office traded away 85 wide receiver targets this offseason. That massive target share belonged to DJ Moore, an established veteran who demanded the ball. With him out of the picture, that heavy workload mathematically has to go somewhere. That puts second-year receiver Luther Burden in prime position. He only caught 47 passes as a rookie, but without Moore on the field, the structure of the offense dictates Burden will absorb a huge chunk of those vacated targets. The exact same mathematical advantage is playing out in San Francisco for Ricky Pearsall. Between George Kittle recovering from a torn Achilles and an aging tight end room, the 49ers' target distribution is opening up dramatically. More specifically, with Brandon Ayuk's ongoing contract disputes and likely departure, the primary read in this passing attack is suddenly vacant. Pearsall stepping into this role is by design. He is a hand-picked John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan draft selection, validating their first-round capital. In Carolina, Jalen Coker has a similarly clear runway. The Panthers have one of the weakest tight end rooms in the league, and with Xavier Legette struggling with consistency, Coker has an unobstructed path to the wide receiver 2 role behind Tetairoa McMillan. Targeting a volume beneficiary secures a guaranteed floor of touches. The strict trade-off is that you are betting these unproven players can actually separate and succeed once NFL defenses start treating them as the primary threat. This flowchart breaks down our second archetype, the scheme upgrade. These are players whose raw talent was suppressed by organizational incompetence, stepping into competent systems. In Los Angeles, Omarion Hampton managed over 700 total yards in just 9 games last year. Now he gets a healthy offensive line and steps into Mike McDaniel's optimized rushing scheme. In Vegas, Ashton Janty produced 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns as a rookie, despite a broken offensive line. Factoring in a healthy line and competent play calling, his ceiling jumps significantly. And in Tennessee, Cam Ward's rookie environment was toxic. The team won 3 games and led the league in penalties. Removing those drive-killing errors naturally inflates his passing volume. The Titans actively set Ward up to fail as a rookie. They spent a number 1 overall pick on him, then forced him to throw to a rotation of practice squad elevations and late draft picks. The front office finally addressed the skill positions by adding Wan'Dale Robinson and Carnell Tate. Tate entered the league as a top-ranked prospect with elite football IQ, and his ability to win as a primary target gives Ward a consistent 1,000-yard threat for the first time. There's a structural market inefficiency. 0 primetime games scheduled. No national television. The casual market suppresses their value. Investing in scheme upgrades gives you access to elite positional production. But the massive trade-off is that your success relies entirely on a brand new coaching staff successfully installing their system in year 1. Our third archetype applies to defensive players, the advanced stat darling. Judging rookie edge rushers by raw sacks is flawed. Take Giants edge rusher Abdul Carter. He finished his rookie season with a quiet 4 total sacks. This bar chart shows why you ignore that surface number. Carter's low sack total is eclipsed by his pressure volume. He finished top 12 in pressures as a rookie, despite playing on a team that rarely gave him obvious passing downs. We see the exact same disconnect with Carolina's Nick Scourton. He recorded just 5 sacks, but generated 34 overall pressures at only 22 years old. Pressures indicate defensive disruption. Add a complementary threat, like adding Jalen Phillips. Pressures convert into sacks. Minnesota's Dallas Turner fits this mold perfectly. He surged in his advanced metrics late in his rookie year, and with the Vikings trading away Jonathan Greenard, the front office is opening up the exact snap share Turner needs to capitalize on his pressure rates. Advanced metrics accurately predict true defensive disruption, but the strict trade-off in IDP fantasy formats is that converting a pressure into a finished sack is highly volatile, meaning you risk absorbing low weekly point yields while waiting for those numbers to normalize. A Year 2 breakout is the intersection of high-level raw talent and an improved organizational context. This scorecard, called the roster fit, maps these specific archetypes directly to your personal risk tolerance and league format. Under a conservative build, we prioritize the volume beneficiaries. Players like Luther Burden and Ricky Pearsall are ideal for strict redraft leagues, where limited bench space means you need immediate utility. You are sacrificing an absolute top-tier ceiling, but in exchange, you secure a safe, mathematical floor of guaranteed targets. Under the aggressive build, we target scheme upgrades and advanced stat darlings. Players like Ashton Janty, Cam Ward, and Abdul Carter belong in dynasty portfolios. Here, you accept a high degree of early season volatility while new coaching staffs install their systems. The reward is acquiring potential top 5 positional assets at a massive discount. Stop letting last year's box scores dictate this year's drafts. Those stats are just a record of what happened under constraints that no longer exist. The most profitable managers don't draft the situation that has passed. They draft the situation that is arriving.